I think we can get started. My name is Amy Etten, and I'm the Vice President for Client Engagement at Million Women Mentors. Million Women Mentors is the premier network of organizations dedicated to encouraging girls and women around the world to pursue, persist, and succeed in STEM careers. We are delighted to have you here today for this, what I know will be awesome webinar. And we're going to be featuring two examples of ways that organizations have used storytelling to inspire female students to overcome stereotypes and pursue STEM careers. So before we get started, a few housekeeping items. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, your name, where you're located, what organization you're working with. We hope to have time for Q&A at the end. We do have a really full conversation ahead of us, but please use the Q&A feature for any questions you might have. Any questions we don't answer, we will be sure to respond to in a follow-up. Speaking of follow-up, there will be a follow-up. We will send around a recording of today's webinar for you to share, to listen to again. We will also include any resources or websites that you might hear mentioned today. So as I said, I am super excited about this, about today's webinar, about the topic. And I would go so far as to say that this is our gift at Million Women Mentors to all of you at the holiday season. So let's dig in. To start off, we're going to go with a speed round of introductions. So Julie, I'm going to start with you and ask you to share your name, your position, and your organization.
Sure. Thanks, Amy. Welcome, everyone. So Julie Bauer, I'm the Executive Director with the Alliant Energy Foundation.
Thank you, Julie. Robin.
Hi, I'm Robin Senf. I'm the Director of Marketing and Creative Strategy at Alliant Energy, and I'm thrilled to be here today. Thanks.
Wonderful. And I am afraid that our artist and one of our panelists had a last minute emergency. So she is not going to be able to join us. She might be able to join us toward the end of the conversation, but we're not quite sure. So we're going to move over Barbara and go to Jen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Stansel. I am from the National Math and Science Initiative. It's awesome to be here today, the Director of Development for our national work.
Thanks, Jen. Kat.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here. I'm Kat, or Catherine Garland, also with the National Math and Science Initiative. I'm a coach with what we call NIMSY. In particular, I coach AP Physics. And Amy, I see Barbara on my screen.
Yeah, okay. Can't you see me?
So I think we're ready to bounce back to Barbara. We're so happy you're here.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've been here. I must not have had the sharing going through, or maybe I don't have the greatest internet connection, so I apologize. Yeah, I'm sorry. My name's Barb Francisco. I'm an illustrator and an artist from Eastern Iowa, and I've worked in storytelling and comics for a number of years. So I'm really honored to be part of the project with helping girls with STEM, because I have a little girl who is very mathematical. Well, she's not little anymore, but it's a great program.
Thank you so much. Yay, I'm so happy that you're here. And you're right, I did not see you on my screen. So let's dig in. I'm going to start out with a couple of questions just to give some background and context for why these projects came to be. So I'm going to start with Alliant Energy's The Power Chronicles. So the Power Chronicles tells the story of a middle school-aged African-American girl named Akila, who finds her power with the help of a professor, a pioneer of space travel, a solar tech inventor, and some other inspiring women who are mathematicians and scientists. So Julie, I want to start with you. Why are the topics of workforce readiness and diversity, equity, and inclusion so important to Alliant Energy?
Thanks, Amy. So one one of our company's values is Act for Tomorrow. And it is critical for us to ensure more youth, especially young girls of all ethnic backgrounds, are exposed to STEM early on, right? So, and Alliant Energy has been supporting STEM for many, many, many years. But I would say our focus has been more on an older age group. And we wanted our focus to be more on this 5th through 8th grade child. And, we of course wanted to continue that support of young women that have chosen STEM as an undergraduate path, but we also wanted to support and spark interest in that 5th through 8th grade girl. More or less supporting, right, the next generation of talent and thinkers. And STEM is such a huge part of that workforce readiness for us. And by focusing on and helping prepare kids and adults with fundamental skills to grow into successful careers, in hopes that maybe someday they choose Alliant Energy. So STEM is a huge part of workforce readiness for us, and we're excited to just share more.
Thank you so much. Obviously, working for Million Women Mentors, this really resonates with me and everyone in our organization. I want to turn to Not the Science Type for a minute. So Not the Science Type is a 4-part docuseries that features 4 female scientists, including Dr. Jay Shree Seth, who is a corporate scientist at 3M. And it features 4 female scientists who are challenging stereotypes and confronting gender, racial, and age discrimination as they rise to prominence in the fields of biology, engineering, science, and technology. So Jen, you're at NMSI, the National Math and Science Initiative, and you're a partner to 3M in promoting the docuseries. What can you tell us about why 3M created Not the Science Type, and why is this topic so important to 3M?
I think it's a great question, and I think it is a mirror of Alliant's answer as well. I think that there are many corporations that are doing amazing work and are really thinking about the data-driven results that they're seeing in surveys, and particularly Not the Science Type is informed by a survey called it's a science survey globally, the state of science. And on the free resource page that also has the documentary, you also see the state of science. So this is a litmus test that 3M takes every year. They've taken it for 5 years. Do we trust science? How many women do we have in science? What are the barriers to science? And that continues to inform their strategy. What I love about Alliant and 3M is they both created a product that we as mentors and scientists ourselves can use with other girls.
Fascinating. That is fascinating. And so what can you tell us then about your partnership with 3M? How did that come to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of neat things that we've done in partnership, but how our partnership came to be is that there's a goal for Not the Science Type that is reaching 5 million girls, minorities, and non-binary students. And so it's really exciting that 3M has tapped many people in our industry, NMSI included, to say, how can we best leverage this documentary, which is free, and put it into schools, into homes, into family conversations, into out of school time networks. And so they have tapped a group of us, and we're in the second wave of this cohort where we are out there saying to people like you, to Million Women Mentors, and to others, hey, this is a vital and valuable way of sharing who we are as scientists today, who we can be, and who can solve all the amazing critical issues of our future, and how women will play a role in that.
Thank you. I hear the word goals and I get all goosebumpy. But before we talk about goals, I want to go back to the Power Chronicles. So Julie, we understand that these topics, that are addressed in the Power Chronicles are not new focus areas for Alliant Energy, but and that you've had a long history in supporting STEM programming. But the Power Chronicles itself as a mechanism for reaching and connecting with students is so different from anything that you've done in the past. So I'm wondering if maybe you and perhaps Robin could tell me and can tell us sort of how the Power Chronicles came to be.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. Well, I'll kind of start and then certainly Robin can chime in here. But it's kind of a fun story. We had been looking for creative ways to enhance and engage that 5th through 8th grade girl in STEM. And Robin and I had been working on a different project, and we had saw this kids book that another energy company had created. And the kids book was all about energy and was geared really towards a younger elementary level kid. It was pretty cool. So Robin and I were kind of just talking it through, and we're like, what if we created a STEM book? And oh, by the way, not just any STEM book, but what if it was made into a comic book? And I will share, Robin so politely corrected me and said, Julie, those are now called graphic novels. So we had a good chuckle over that. But then we kind of rolled up our sleeves and got to work, and the ideas snowballed from there. It was really a great way, Amy, as you mentioned, something we've done a lot of work around for a very long time, supporting various STEM programming, but creating something that was new to us, creative, a way to have fun, a way to engage that 5th through 8th grade girls, and kind of took it from there. And Robin, I think you probably have some other thoughts as well with that. It really just started like, we can do something, and the STEM graphic novel is what kind of came to life for us.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was a fun, just thinking outside the box and thinking, what if, right? And I would encourage everybody to think what is possible, because sometimes you don't know what's possible until you dream it up. And that was kind of the case. Julie and I get into a room and we think big and try to think what's a great way to solve a problem, and you never know what the outcome is. And I thought of graphic novels, as I corrected Julie, not comic books, because I have 3 kids, and we used graphic novels for our kids when they maybe weren't so into reading, but they were excited to kind of engage with content in different ways. So I tried everything when I had a son who didn't really enjoy reading. And so graphic novels was a way to kind of introduce fun topics to him. And that's why that kind of came to light. And I also knew, I had just read earlier that for middle school kids, graphic novels was kind of a trend. And I thought this is kind of the meeting of where kids are, right? Really wanting more graphic novels, quick, easy to read, fun, engaging. And the same audience we were trying to reach was STEM. And like Julie said, the idea of a book for utility, around utility or energy for kids is a great idea. But that wasn't quite who we were trying to reach with this. And so could we shift the idea and make it really align with our strategy? So the idea with some other utilities company was a kid's book, but then we just kind of added on to that idea. And immediately I thought of, Barb at that point too. And we can talk more about that when you're ready, Amy.
Oh, that's great. And I love that what if question. And I also love that, what if I don't? What if I do? What if I don't? I think, what if I fail? But in any event, I use those with my kids all the time. So you mentioned Barbara. So that was actually my next question. I imagine I'm not the only one who wants to know this. So now you've got this really cool idea. How did you turn this concept into a reality?
It's a really great thing. And I feel really fortunate because I've had the chance to work with Barb Francisco for 20 years. She actually was an artist that we used at Alliant Energy to illustrate some really complicated things years and years ago. So Barb and I, our paths have crossed multiple ways. I need something and I call Barb. But when we were talking about a graphic novel and comic books, I have always keep up with what's Barb up to, right? I go to her website and I knew that she actually had been illustrating comic books. So when I thought graphic novel, Barb was the first person I thought of. And I was like, I wonder if she could partner with us on that. And so I gave her a call, and I will just say, Barb, when we brought this idea, Julie and I set up this meeting to talk to Barb about, this is our big idea. And Barb is really the artist and creative mastermind who thought, I know how we could bring this to life. And she just added so much color and life to the ideas and characters. So we just can't thank Barb enough for kind of breathing life into what was just the seed of an idea. And Barb, I know I'm curious, I haven't asked you, like, what was your experience when we called you and said, we have this idea?
Well, I was very excited because you don't get many opportunities to work with. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that will ask me, hey, I wrote a children's book, and they want me to draw it for free. But this is an actual position. I mean, it's a contract job. So because there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into developing a story like this. I mean, you've got character development, character designs, then you've got drafting of stories and redrafting and dialogue, and then, it's a lot. And at first we weren't sure, I mean, how much interest there would be. We were kind of working together on this. And the big key is to come up with characters that people identify with. And this is a tough age group. These are the tweens. Very, very difficult group, especially girls, because what's cool changes from day to day. But what we wanted to do was have a character that was an interesting, she was kind of dealing with some issues that girls that age do. She wasn't sure, am I cool enough? My sister's really cool, but she's playing basketball. Should I be doing that? But I'm into science. And it was kind of that little introduction of somebody who is very much into science and math, and the journey where she finds out that, yeah, that is awesome. I mean, it's one thing to have your mom tell you you're awesome, but then when she meets these women that really show her how awesome women are who do these things, that was kind of the journey that we were trying to introduce Akila, and through Akila give these girls this idea that, yeah, it's amazing to be into science and math and engineering and these things, that we need more women involvement. So that was really where we were trying to go with the story, and then to create characters that they identified with. The fun character, of course, is Dr. Nix, Dr. Fee Nix. And she is she's a lot of fun. I mean, she's just kind of sort of like, if I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember Mr. Peabody, but there was a cartoon when I was a little kid. The smart guy was the dog. So she's kind of Mr. Peabody. But it was a lot of fun.
I love this. It makes me really happy. And so we've got these amazing resources out there. A lot of time, thought, consideration was put into developing the graphic novel and the docuseries. And so turning back to my goal orientation, my big question is, so now what? Like, what are we doing with these amazing resources to affect the outcomes that we're hoping to achieve? I'd love to hear what NIMSY has done to extend the math of science type work into the classroom setting and to get resources into teachers' hands. And I have a feeling, Jen, you want to say something. Am I right?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to, before Kat goes into the awesome resources that she's created, I wanted to give you the parallel story about how and who is featured in this documentary, just like Akila is featured in the Power Chronicles. And so there are 4 women that are featured in the 3M documentary, and they're in these short snippets They're about 6.5 minutes long, where they tell their own story, right? And so this idea of who am I, what is my story, comes through very, very clearly here. So there are 3 women, Jay Shree, who is the Chief Science Officer at 3M. We also have Sierra Civils, who is the very first African-American engineer, nuclear engineer, to graduate from the University of Michigan with her PhD. We have Jessica Taff, who's a chemist. And then there's this wonderful young woman who at the time was 15 when this was filmed. Here we are talking about middle school. Here we are talking about high school. This is also the story of a girl who has been inventing things, and in her invention became the very first Time magazine Kid of the Year. And so Gitanjali Rao has done some really neat work with us to sort of tell her story too, to her peers. And so I just wanted to share with you how different and broad reaching these stories are, how they could be used individually or collectively, by showing the documentary either in pieces or at length. All of them have something in common. And this will help you understand what Kat's about to say. All the adult women have been chosen as something called an if-then ambassador. And the if-then ambassadors are chosen by AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And so there are 125 women that have been ambassadors for about 3 years now. And all 3 of these adult women are those if-then ambassadors, and they have amazing, amazing profiles on the if-then collection, which we'll get to when we talk to resources. But I just wanted to give you that grounding, because now Kat can give you how we took those women and their profiles and made that into something viable for the classroom.
Thanks, Jen. I worked together with another NIMSY coach, Alexis Constantini, who couldn't be here today, but I wanted to give a shout out to her, because together what we had the opportunity to do is create discussion guides, one for each of these short videos that are freely available on the website. And they're geared towards high school teachers, but it could also be adjusted for middle school. And the idea is to provide just a lot of support, no matter what class you're teaching, who you're working with, many different directions you could go in with using these videos. So they're super powerful in terms of exploring careers, exploring what it means to be a scientist, different types of scientists and engineers, how to overcome adversity, how to overcome people telling you that you can't do something that you really want to do. And so the discussion guides are laid out with suggestions for what to do before you show any of the videos, what you can do during the videos, so stopping at certain points with discussion prompts, and what you can do with your class after the videos and continuing if it might bridge into an engineering unit, if that's what you're teaching, but this could also be something to be used in an advisory as you're exploring careers or lots of different things. So Alexis and I both coach high school teachers with NIMSY, but we're high school teachers as well. And so we were just super excited to get a chance to do this, use it with our own students we work with and mentor, and have a chance to share it. And we kept in mind as we were doing this that we just know early and repeated exposure to many different career pathways and the benefits of diversity in our workforce. The more often you do that, the sooner students will just kind of take that as an attitude moving forwards and can really start to change their identity and perception and career paths, which is what we've been talking about as an end goal in a way. The other thing Alexis and I were so thrilled to get to do, and this is the next slide, is to connect if-then ambassadors that Jen was talking about to high school curriculum for AP science teachers. So Jen explained a little bit about if-then. I like to think of it as like part of the slogan is, if she can see it, then she can be it. So that's sort of the if-then. And there are many, many if-then ambassadors, all women who are really leaders in different areas of science and engineering. And there's many materials available about them on the website. And what Alexis and I did is we matched women with different parts of different AP Science classes. So it'd be really quick for a teacher to say, wow, I'm teaching about food chemistry right now. Let me show a 3-minute video on this woman who invented a really quick way to do nitrogen cooled ice cream. So that's just a little example, but what I mean is, as a teacher, you often have very little time to use awesome resources that are available. So the quicker it is to find what you need, plug it right into your curriculum, the more likely you are to be able to use it and have a chance for students to really see all these amazing scientists and engineers that aren't in our textbooks usually and aren't often encountered. So Jen, did I do it justice?
Beautiful, perfect.
Okay.
The only thing I'd add, Kat, is that there is also Teach for America also did guides for middle school. And so we are able to send out our guides for high school, but you might want to search the internet for those that go with middle school curriculum, but ours works for that too.
Thank you for adding that. That's great to know. Some more middle school resources. So Julie, how about you? So you have this amazing graphic novel with incredible characters, and how are you using it to inspire middle school girls to explore their interests in STEM?
Sure. So we support a STEM event with University of Wisconsin-Platteville every year. It's called Pioneering Your Future. The event is specifically geared towards 5th through 8th grade girls from around the local area. There are about 350 girls that attend this STEM camp every year in the spring. And it was at this event that we had the pleasure of launching this first STEM graphic novel. There are some special people that we get to work with every year. Tammy and Kim from UW-Platteville are a couple of those special people. They are the ones behind Women in STEM, Women in Engineering at the college. They do so much to encourage and spark that passion within STEM. And so we just felt this was a perfect launch point for us with this book. Our partnership with UW-Platteville as well was a great way. They kind of brainstormed some hands-on activities that the girls could do at the camp to kind of tie into the book. They created this very creative flashlight project for us that coincided very, very nicely with the story. And we're just very appreciative of these partnerships. I would say Sarah Nelson from the Iowa State Extension, she is another tremendous partner. She's helped us in so many ways and really extending our work around STEM, extending the work of this Power Chronicles graphic novel. So anyway, it's those partnerships that really have allowed us to kind of utilize this book and get it out to that 5th through 8th grade girl. So those are just a few of the ways.
Thank you, Julie. Kat, a moment ago, you mentioned mentoring, and that plays such an important role in supporting girls and women on STEM pathways. And so I was wondering, Jen, maybe could you tell us how mentors can use the additional curriculum assets with their mentees?
Yes, absolutely. So the discussion guides, Kat will tell you, they have a read, think, and do element to them like you might see in a classroom. They also have just provocative questions, right? And so what we know from the research is that mentoring makes a massive difference in the lives of girls and their trajectory towards STEM. I can't underscore this enough. There is a lot of research out there. And so what we are trying to do, and Align Energy is trying to do, is to help use storytelling as an advice, as a device for girls to see themselves in this career. And so whether you're a mentor and have a young girl or a set of young girls with you, there are questions and provocations in our discussion guides, such as, What are barriers that you see? What are your what's the secret, superpower that you have to overcome those barriers? What does your intersectionality look like? And how does that, play out in the classes that you take or what you do after school? Those kinds of human questions, particularly about STEM identity, are the entree to unpacking and unlocking what girls experience in their day-to-day work. And so you as the mentor have an enormous opportunity with the girls that you work with to really unlock that by just asking some questions. And we hope our discussion guides can help you kind of formulate those questions or show you and model how a little short documentary can lead to what we hope is a productive conversation.
Thank you, Jen. Kat, is there anything that you would want to add since you did mention using it with your mentees?
Sure. Jen is right on, and I would just add that I have done it and it works. It does all of the things that Jen says. It provides it's an easier opportunity to start having the tough discussions when you have something you've watched together to talk about, you've thought a little bit about what to ask. And it's just so powerful for girls and young women to get a chance to talk about how they're feeling, how they think people are perceiving them, messages they're getting from their family, from other teachers. When they see it represented in a really professionally well done video, it really hits home that it's not just me. This is many girls are experiencing what I'm experiencing, but here are some girls and women who've gone on and moved forward and been really successful and found ways to overcome this. So I definitely encourage, whether you're in a classroom situation, mentoring one-on-one, small groups. I saw someone writing in the chat about Girl Scouts, like all of those groups are perfect places to try out some of these videos.
Kat, you have so much energy when you talk about this, and that just gets me so excited. And so I have to imagine like that the girls get very energized by the novel and the docuseries as well. And I'd love to hear about that. I'd love to hear how they're responding. And I'm sure you've got some great stories to tell. So Julie, I'm going to pitch this one over to you. And I wonder what you could share about, some of your experiences with students.
Absolutely. I would say, kind of in this spirit of seeing it to believe, be it, right? See it to be it. I know Kat mentioned that, Jen mentioned it, Barb mentioned it. One of the best stories was at a recent science festival we were a sponsor for, and we had our STEM graphic novel highlighted in a booth for kids to kind of come up, take part in the flashlight activity that we had, get some pictures with the characters from the book. And some of us from Alliant were standing there and helping kids. And this little firecracker, I think she was a third grader, walks up to our booth, rests her chin in her hands on the table, right? And she's staring at our backdrop and just kind of taking it all in. And all of a sudden she looks up with this humongous smile and she goes, "She looks like me." And she was pointing to Akila, our main character of the book. And that for us, like, was exact. I mean, it was like, if there was no other success factor to mention, that was it. We had created this in hopes that young people would see themselves in this book, and that whole, she looks like me. If I see it, I can be it. So at that very moment, I felt the book had been a success. It accomplished everything we had hoped for. And, another cool thing I think that came out at this particular event, I mentioned this flashlight activity. Well, it was STEM in pure form. These kids realized this flashlight activity had these little bulbs, right? And they were blue or red or green. Well, we found out through these kids that some of the bulbs were like iridescent. They changed colors. unbeknownst to us, we didn't know this, but they were, you know, kind of futzing with it and creating on their own. And again, I mean, that's what we want from STEM, is that creativity, that innovation, that out of the box thinking. And so those are just a few examples of just, you know, when you see all of that kind of come to life, you're like, yes, we've accomplished what we had hoped to do. So glad we get to share with all of you today as well.
Oh, thank you. I keep getting chills on this during this conversation. Jen, what about you? Can you share an example or two of how the docuseries and the related outreach is supporting 3M's goals of putting more women and minorities on pathways to STEM careers?
Yeah, I want to also tell a story that is really, really fun. And also meaningful. So we just had a partnership with the Perot Museum. That is a major science museum in Dallas. And so in October, the statues of the IFBEN ambassadors were all there. And then we partnered with the Perot to bring in Sierra Sibbles, who again whose story is remarkable. She wanted to be a chef, a baker. And that's what she thought she was going to be. And instead, her teacher in class talked to her about what she should aspire to. She then went to MIT, and then she went to Michigan. And so what we talked about with Sierra at the Perot is really controlling the narrative, right? Putting yourself as a girl in control of the narrative. So she went out to an all-girls school, and she spoke to the entire middle school in their gym, and the WNBA players from Dallas and Sierra were all there, right? And so they've got they're cheering, and it's just this big event where again, not only do you see yourself, but you see yourself in control of a narrative. Sierra is in control of her narrative. She has become successful in STEM, and so can these girls. It was incredible to see women who girls think of as having superpowers really relating back to the real girls that were sitting in that gym at that school.
Thank you. So it seems to me like everyone on this webinar, all the panelists, are pretty pleased with the work that they have done, and rightfully so. And so I'm wondering what advice you would have to offer to other organizations who are thinking about ways to leverage storytelling as a way to inspire girls and women. So Robin, we haven't heard from you in a while, so I'm going to turn this one to you and ask you for your advice.
Sure. Well, and I think a good example are what Jennifer was talking about. I mean, when she was talking about the girl in the gym, couldn't we all just visualize this full gym and them standing on the floor and the cheering? And then when Julie talked about the little girl coming up to the table at the event and putting her head on her hand and saying, "That looks like me," that's a story, right? We're going to not remember any numbers we talk about today. We're going to remember those stories. And that's the power of a story, right? We all love a good story, and a story is a big part of what makes us human, right? We are such social creatures, and we told stories going all the way back to when we were cave people, right? And that was how we connected with each other. And we're really built for listening to stories and interpreting stories. I think the important thing from a marketing perspective, and so I'm going to give you my marketing person's point of view, is why stories work is they create an emotional connection, right? They use the senses, you're visualizing, you can smell somebody making cookies on Christmas morning, right? You can use all your different senses, and it uses a different part of the brain than maybe some of our other things do. In fact, there's a lot of research that shows there's neurochemical reactions that happen in our brain when we're engaged in a story, whether we're reading a story, whether we're watching a video about a story. All of those things are really important to us. So I think about, if you're trying to think about how to use storytelling and STEM, remember in all of these cases that the student is really the hero of their own story, right? So they're front and center in their story, and that we just need to kind of paint the background, just like the girl that you talked about who had dreams of becoming a baker, right? That's, you created a background where she could use some of that math and science and baking and become something else too. So, and help them find goals, to find new ways to help them see themselves in stories as we go. So that's my thought. I'm sure there's others I'd like to add to that too.
Thank you, Robin. I would actually love to hear from Barbara because she brought the art component, and the little bit that I heard, from Julie over the course of time as about creating the artwork was that it wasn't easy. It wasn't just like a one and done, oh, I know exactly how to do this. I mean, it took some collaboration and iteration. So would love any advice that you would offer, Barbara, about the artwork component.
What I would say is, and it does vary. I mean, it really depends on who you're working with. I have a background in storytelling and in comics, and so I was brought in as both a writer and illustrator, which is kind of a nice thing, because then I can I know what I want the images to look like, and sometimes when you have somebody else that's writing, they have a hard time conveying what they want it to look like. So then you've got that to happen. I would say if you are looking for someone to help you with storytelling, is find people that, if you can find a writer, artist, or two people that can work together on that. And then we worked as a team. I brought ideas in. We kind of, it was a rough idea because we were creating a world in a way. So, and then they brought in, well, these are some things that we really want to convey to the young women. And one of the things about a story, especially when you're telling stories to kids, is you gotta make it interesting. And I think we've all seen those comics that's just, you're being inundated with too much information, and you're not getting a story. And like Robin was talking about, we wanted a character that the young woman would connect with, and hopefully care about what happens in her little adventure and what she learns and how she feels about herself at the end, so that they would then identify with that, not just how she looks, but also how she feels. That, girls at that age, we all probably went through this. I know I did, where oh my gosh, one minute you feel really insecure, the next minute, hey, I feel pretty good. And it's very up and down at that age because a lot of different reasons, but it's natural for young women and guys too. But I think, like somebody had mentioned, the age that girls tend to really need that mentoring and support in their ideas. And it is so crucial. And I know this from my own daughter and myself, and having those mentors can make a huge difference. So those are, but really as far as the storytelling, it's just making sure you have people working together and getting those ideas out. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that was really interesting. It's not just about conveying how the person looks, but also about how the person feels. Yes. I think that's a really very interesting piece that I hadn't thought about on my own.
I think that's probably more important. I really do. Is how it makes them feel. Yeah. Because then, like Robin said, they'll remember it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I would add, Amy, Barb, Robin, and myself, I can't tell you how many conversations we went back and forth, just, what should the characters be wearing, and how should they have glasses or no glass? I mean, there was a lot of, to some point you're like, oh my Lord, but it makes a difference. And to Barb's point, it's the how they look, but it's how they feel as well. But I kind of look back, I mean, there were conversations I would have never guessed were so critical as you're creating this thing, but so meaningful, and I think so beneficial for the end product.
Yeah, which is truly a beautiful end product. Jen, how about you? What advice would you offer?
I don't think I can say anything better than it's already been said. what I would add to that discussion is that we are at a unique time in our history where we have democratized the ability to share our voice and share our stories. And so as mentors, think about social media, think about TikTok, think about podcasts, think about graphic novels, think about paintings and all kinds of things that give girls the opportunity to use their voice to tell their story. There has never been a better time to encourage that in the girls of today.
Amazing. Thank you. I was just writing very quickly, taking notes. Kat, is there anything that you would want to add in terms of advice from your experience in terms of the resources and how you've been delivering them, etc.?
Sure. Excuse me. I would just add to not shy away from sharing the difficult parts of the stories. So I know sometimes we might feel we maybe just want to highlight the successes and everyone is successful, but it's really important to know all the things that happen along the way, the semesters, maybe you had to drop out of school or whatever happened. I know I used to worry about talking too much about how difficult it can be to be a woman in science. And I felt like that might be discouraging, but we now know the opposite is completely true. So it's really helpful for people to hear and know different things may happen. This might occur. This happened to you, these people I'm watching, but we're able to overcome that. And with support in our community, we can definitely make changes. So that's just my suggestion, is to tell all the parts of the story and not shy away from any of those parts.
That makes so much sense, because I think it's one more way to add to a sense of feeling like you're belonging, when it gives you one more area where you can relate, if you've had a similar difficult experience. So we have about 10 minutes left, and I want to open the floor to anyone who is with us who might have a question for any of the speakers. You can use the Q&A function or the chat. And in the meantime, while we're waiting to see if we have any questions, I want to also just open the floor back up to our speakers to see if you have anything else that you would like to share as a closing comment. And if you do, just physically raise your hand and then start talking. Julie.
Amy, just real quick, I think back of when we started this project, I think we initially started where we were writing a book. And then all of a sudden it was, well, no, let's call it the Power Chronicles, because we may want to write more than one book. And thank goodness Barb agreed to that, because she is now working on book number 2 for us, which I just think, it's just funny how it evolved. It just really, through various conversations and that collaboration, it has evolved quite a bit. So I just wanted to add that. And thanks to everyone. We really appreciate everybody's just taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you. So can you share a timeline for story number 2, or is that still under wraps?
Well, I think I can safely say our hope is to release this again next year at the Pioneering Your Future event at UW-Platteville, Wisconsin in February. So that's kind of the timeline we are working within. So yes, we're very excited.
That's amazing. Wonderful. Anyone else have anything that they would like to add as a closing comment? I'm looking here. I'm just taking a quick look through the chat, but I think, as we said earlier, we're recording the chat, so we will make sure that we follow up with everyone's questions, either directly or as part of the large follow-up that will probably go out. What day is it? Tuesday? So maybe Friday, maybe Monday. But just want to say thank you to everyone on this call, for the speakers and the guests, for the great work that you're doing, for everyone's commitment to advancing girls and women in STEM, to everyone here joining us as a guest. We hope that you will use these resources if you don't have what you need, if you don't get what you need through the official follow-up, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We'll have my email in the follow-up as well. Just want to wish everyone a very happy holiday, a very happy and healthy holiday season. Please go read the Power Chronicles, use them with your students. If you haven't watched Not the Science Type, please watch all 4 parts, use the resources, and let's put more girls and women on pathways to be successful in STEM careers. Thank you.